No one ever said why little one was sent to the countryside that year. Only that from that moment on, his life took a turn with no way back, and sat huddled in the corner of the bus seat. The earphones, technically advanced, emitted the scratchy sounds of a pop song that he had listened to over and over 100 times. Through the misty window, blurred by fog, the rice fields stretched out gray and bleak, as if the world were sinking into a colorless dream. He pulled his fashionable cap down to cover his eyes, trying to sleep to forget this admired reality. His mother was sitting beside him, silent, and he was on his way to a place he didn't want to go to even a little bit. Grandma's village. A vague memory lingered about that place, beyond a few hazy images from when he was still small, when he held his mother's hand and ran freely on the red dirt road. A sunlit courtyard, a tall beetle palm, and Grandma, a petite woman, her hair white as mist, wearing an old brown shirt. Grandma Man, whom his mother said couldn't speak, and didn't understand why his mother used that phrase, couldn't speak. It sounded like a statement, something hidden that he didn't want to design toward. This morning, when his mother pulled him out of bed while the sky was still pitch dark and had snapped, burying his face in the corner of the room. "I'm not going anywhere," he shouted, but his mother only looked at him, her eyes both sad and expressive. His mother's silence always scared him, more than the times she was persistent. It was like an impenetrable wall, and he knew that when his mother was silent, everything had already been decided. Just a few weeks, and, his mother said, her voice soft but firm, "Staying with Grandma. You'll see. It's different." Different how? And thought, his hand clutching the backpack strap. Different meant no Wi-Fi, no computer, no friends, no cool movie theater. Just a village full of smells, full of dirt, and a grandmother he barely knew anything about except that she couldn't speak. He didn't want different. He just wanted to stay in his small apartment, with his beloved girl and the bright computer screen. The bus jolted, the smell of diesel mixing with the stench, and the scent of fish sauce from some baskets someone had left on the floor, and grimaced, pulling the earphones closer to his ears. His mother sat on the edge, her hands clasped tightly on her lap, her eyes looking far away. The boy, Mock, tried to find some sign, some explanation, some apology, but there was nothing. His mother just sat there, like a statue, and he felt like he was being abandoned. "I hate you, Mom," and muttered, softly enough that his mother couldn't hear. But he knew, even if he shouted, she wouldn't respond. The bus stopped at a rest area along the way. Passengers noisily got off, some buying bread, others standing smoking under a tree, and didn't want to get off, but his mother quietly touched his shoulder. "Go wash your face, and it's still a long way." He glared at his mother, but still dragged himself off the bus. The air outside was cool, carrying the smell of wet grass and dirt. An old woman selling street food sat under a banyan tree, beside a pile of purple sweet potatoes and a few bundles of freshwater spinach. She looked up at him, her smile wrinkled. "Where are you going, looking so sad?" And froze, not expecting someone to talk to him. He muttered, "Back to my hometown." "Hometown?" The old woman laughed loudly, her voice deep but warm. "The hometown is the best place in the world, kid. There are family, cool breezes, and things you can't find in the city." He shrugged, not responding. He didn't believe in those sentimental words. To him, the hometown was just a strange place, where his mother was taking him to punish him for the times he spoke out, or because he didn't even know. His mother had never explained why. His mother walked over, handing him a full bottle of water. "Drink this, don't get thirsty." Her voice was gentle, but it only took the bottle, not thanking her. He turned back to the bus, leaving the old woman still watching with an incomprehensible smile. When the bus reached the Crossroads Market, the sky was already bright, and yawned widely, his shoulders stiff from dozing in an awkward position. His mother pulled their suitcase down and motioned for him to follow. The red dirt road was slippery after the night's rain, flanked by tall bamboo, their leaves rustling in the wind. The smell of damp earth, straw, and smoke from someone's kitchen drifted over, making him feel stifled. He pulled his cap lower, dragging his feet behind his mother, clutching the backpack strap as if it were the only thing still connecting him to his old world. Grandma Min was waiting at the gate. It was still the image in vaguely remembered, the faded brown shirt, white hair neatly tied back, and eyes strangely bright, as if they could see through everything. She was tiny, slightly hunched, but steady like a tree rooted deep in the soil. When she saw him, she smiled a shy but gentle smile. She reached out, intending to hug him, and stepped back, stiffening. He wasn't used to hugs, especially from someone almost a stranger. Grandma withdrew her hand, her eyes briefly sad, but then she quietly took the suitcase from his mother's hand, motioning for them both to come inside. His mother said something to Grandma, not with words, but with her eyes and hand gestures, and watched, feeling like an outsider. He didn't understand that language, didn't understand why his mother and Grandma could communicate without sound. It made him feel lost, like he didn't belong here. Stay with Grandma for a few weeks, okay? And his mother said, her voice soft but firm. I'll come back to pick you up soon. And nodded, not asking why. He had learned that sometimes not asking felt easier. His mother patted his head, then turned away, her steps quick under the golden sunlight, as if afraid staying longer would make her change her mind, and stood there, watching her figure fade down the red dirt road. He didn't call after her, didn't run after her. He just stood, clutching the backpack strap tightly, feeling a strange emptiness in his heart. Grandma Min placed her hand on his shoulder, gentle as the wind. He didn't turn around, but he felt the warmth from her frail hand. She didn't say anything, only led him into the house, a small thatched house with a sloped roof, smelling of old wood and faint kitchen smoke. That first night, and lay on a mat on the floor, listening to the crickets chirping and the wind whistling through the bamboo walls. A small oil lamp flickered, its yellow-orange light casting shadows on the ceiling, creating wavering shapes. Grandma had set up a mosquito net for him, pulled up his blanket, then quietly went outside, sleeping on the bamboo bed in silence, and turned his face to the wall, trying not to think about his mother, the city, or Grandma. But in the darkness, he heard his own soft sobs, so quiet he hoped Grandma wouldn't notice. He didn't know that, from the crack in the door, she had been watching for a long time. The first morning in the countryside, and was woken by the rooster's crow, sharp and persistent, as if the whole world were shouting in his ear. He grumbled, pulling the blanket over his head, trying to reclaim sleep, but the sunlight slipped through the bamboo slats on the wall, shining straight into his eyes. No curtains, no air conditioning, not even the familiar ticking alarm clock. Just the blazing yellow sun, hot and fierce, like a strict mother dragging him out of his dreams. And sat up, his mind groggy. The tiny room, with its old brick floor and faint musty smell, made him feel like he'd wandered into a place that didn't belong to him. His suitcase still sat untouched in the corner, as if he were secretly hoping his mother would come back today, right now, and say it was all just a joke. But his mother didn't appear. Instead, and heard the sound of a bamboo broom sweeping the courtyard, steady and gentle, mixed with the crackling of the firewood from the outer room. He shuffled out of the room, rubbing his eyes, and saw Grandma Min stooped over the kitchen fire. A thin wisp of smoke rose, carrying the smell of burning wood and the faint aroma of rice porridge. She wore the familiar brown shirt, her hair neatly tied, her back hunched like a small question mark in the simple kitchen. On the old wooden table, she had set out a bowl of plain porridge, beside it a hot boiled egg and a cup of cloudy green tea. No toasted bread, no fresh milk, not even a pack of instant noodles, things he was used to at home. He looked at the porridge, wrinkling his face, then sat down, arms crossed in a silent protest. Grandma Min looked up, catching his gaze. She smiled, a gentle but trembling smile, then gestured with her hand, as if to say, eat, and didn't respond. He picked up the spoon, stirred the porridge a few times, then set it down after 2 bites. It was bland, tasteless, unlike anything he'd ever had for breakfast. He pushed the bowl away, stood up, and muttered, "I'm full," and took the greens, awkwardly. He didn't know what to do with them. Eat them? Throw them away? Or just hold them? She smiled, patted his shoulder lightly, then continued her work, and sat down on the field's edge, playing with the dirt, splashing water with his foot. He didn't help her, didn't say anything, but inside him, a strange feeling stirred, as if those greens weren't just greens, but an invitation, a way she was trying to pull him into her world. That afternoon, as the sun turned golden and heard children laughing from the lane, he peeked out and saw a girl about his age, her hair tied high, wearing a worn-out t-shirt, kicking a homemade ball made of dry banana leaves. The girl saw and stopped and grinned widely. "Hey, who are you? Just got here, huh?" And frowned, not liking her blunt approach. "I'm in," he replied coldly. "From the city." The city. Her eyes widened, then she burst out laughing. "Wow, you really look like a city kid. Skin white as a steam bun, but you seem so down. Staying here with who?" "My grandma," and said, pointing to the thatched house behind him. The girl nodded, as if understanding something. "Grandma Man, right? She's the best. When I was little, she used to give me candy. She can't speak, but everyone loves her. How long are you staying?" And shrugged. "Maybe a few weeks. I don't know." She laughed loudly, hopping closer. "I'm Lin. I live just across the field. If you're bored, come hang out with me. I'll take you to catch crickets, go fishing. It's fun here, not as boring as you think." And didn't reply. He didn't want to make friends with a country girl, didn't want to catch crickets or fish. He just wanted to go home. But Lin didn't care about his attitude. She kicked the ball toward him, and before he could react, it flew straight into a bamboo bush, getting stuck among the dry branches. "Oh no!" Lin cried, running over. "Help me get it in." And sighed, but walked over. He reached in, trying to free the ball, while Lin stood beside him, laughing and pointing. When the ball fell free, Lin clapped, cheering, "You're awesome. Tomorrow I'll come get you to catch grasshoppers, okay?" "No," and replied shortly, turning back to the house. Lin laughed loudly, unbothered. "You'll come around. Here, if you don't play, you'll die of boredom." That night, and lay on the mat, listening to the crickets and the wind through the thatched roof. He thought about Lin, the banana leaf ball, the greens grandma gave him, and felt his heart tangled like a mess of threads. He didn't want to be here, didn't want to know anyone, didn't want to do anything. But something in Grandma's eyes, in Lin's smile, made him feel he couldn't keep shutting his heart forever. Grandma Min walked in, carrying a small oil lamp. She set it beside and pulled up his blanket, then gently patted his shoulder. He didn't turn around, but he felt the warmth of her hand. When she went outside and opened his eyes, watching the yellow-orange light from the lamp dance on the ceiling. He couldn't sleep, not because of the crickets, not because of the heat, but because for the first time he wondered what was Grandma thinking when she looked at him, and why, even though she couldn't speak, did she make him feel he wasn't alone, and sat silently, listening to every word of the old man, feeling his heart tighten. He thought about the letter in the box. "I promise to make you smile every day," and imagined Grandma Min Young standing beside Grandpa, her eyes bright like stars. He thought about the days she was alone, unable to speak, yet still strong, still smiling. He thought about himself, about the days he was irritable, rejecting her, and felt his eyes sting. Lin sat beside him, also silent, but her eyes sparkled, as if she were hearing a fairy tale. "Grandma Min is so amazing," Lin whispered. "I want to grow up like her." The old man laughed, patting Lin's head. "Being like Grandma Min is hard, but if you're kind to others, you're already like her." He turned to him, saying softly, "You're staying with her, so be good. Your grandma doesn't speak, but she understands everything. Don't make her sad, got it?" And nodded, not daring to look at the old man, afraid he'd see his red eyes. He thought about Grandma, about the thatched house, and promised himself he wouldn't make her sad anymore. Never again. The rain stopped when it was already pitch dark. The old man led Un and Lin back to the village, the storm lantern lighting the slippery path. When they reached Grandma Min's courtyard and saw her standing at the gate, holding a raincoat, her eyes worried. Seeing him, she rushed over, placed her hand on his shoulder, checking if he was cold. She didn't scold, didn't blame, just pulled him inside, took a towel to dry his hair, and gestured for Lin to warm up by the firewood stove, and sat there, watching the crackling flames, feeling a warmth spread through him. Grandma Min brought out a bowl of hot porridge, placing it in front of him and Lynn. He ate spoonful by spoonful, saying nothing, but each bite of porridge felt like it carried her warmth. Lynn ate heartily, chattering about getting lost, making Grandma Min smile, though her eyes still held a trace of worry. When Lynn went home and stayed with Grandma, quietly helping her clear the bowls, he wanted to say something about the forest, the old man, Grandpa's story, but he didn't know how to start. She patted his shoulder lightly, as if understanding everything, and handed him a cup of warm green tea. He held the cup, whispering, "Grandma, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to get lost." She smiled, placed her hand on his head, stroking gently. He didn't cry, but his eyes stung, and for the first time, he held her hand, her thin and cold hand, but strangely warm, as if it were embracing his entire heart. That night, and lay on a mat, watching the oil lamp's light dance on the ceiling. He thought about the forest, the rain, the old man's words. He thought about Grandma Min, about Grandpa, about the letter in the wooden box. He took a piece of paper from his backpack, wrote another line, his handwriting shaky. "Grandma, I'll be good. I want you to smile forever." He folded the paper, tucked it into her notebook, and smiled. He didn't know when his mother would come and pick him up, but he knew, even if only a few days remained, he wanted to be here, with Grandma, with the simple moments, with a love that needed no words. Sunday morning in the countryside, and woke up with a mix of relief and unease. Grandma Min was feeling better, no longer coughing much, and the sound of the bamboo broom sweeping the courtyard rang out steadily, like a familiar song. Sunlight streamed through the bamboo walls, casting golden streaks on the old brick floor, and the faint smell of plain porridge from the firewood stove made him smile. But deep inside, he hadn't forgotten the old man's story about Grandpa, about Grandma Min's love, and about the days she faced hardship alone. He felt he needed to do something, not just to apologize, but to let her know he had changed, that he loved this place, loved her more than he ever thought. He stepped out of the room, rubbing his eyes, and saw Grandma Min busy by the stove. A thin wisp of smoke rose, carrying the smell of plain porridge and the fresh scent of lime leaves she'd just picked from the garden corner. On the old wooden table, she had set out a bowl of porridge, a boiled egg, and a plate of boiled sweet potato leaves, green and fresh, next to a cup of cloudy green tea, as always. There was also a rice cake wrapped in banana leaves, fragrant, probably brought by a neighbor, and sat down, picked up the spoon, and ate slowly, feeling the warm porridge slide down his throat, bringing a familiar comfort. Grandma Min looked up, catching his gaze. She smiled, a trembling but brighter smile than yesterday, as if she'd regained some vitality after tiring days. She gestured with her hand, pointing to the rice cake as if to say, "Try it, it's delicious," and nodded slightly, unwrapped a corner of the cake, and took a small bite. The sticky rice, dried shrimp aroma, and a hint of pepper spice made him smile faintly. She watched him, her eyes lighting up, as if his joy was the greatest reward she received this morning. When he finished eating, she slowly cleared the bowls, her hands still trembling, but her movements careful, as always, and stood up, helping her carry the bowls to the well to wash, though he still splashed water everywhere. She didn't correct, didn't scold, just patted his shoulder lightly, as if to say, "That's good enough." He smiled, feeling his heart lighten, but somewhere inside, a vague worry lingered, as if he were counting down the days here, though he didn't want to think about it. Back, not because he hated the city, but because he didn't want to leave Grandma, leave the thatched house, leave the mornings full of sunlight and afternoons full of breeze. He thought about the early days, when he was irritable, rejecting her, and felt his eyes sting. He hadn't said everything to her, hadn't said he loved her, that he was sorry, that he wanted to stay. That afternoon, and sat under the beetle palm, his heart heavy. He took out a piece of paper and pencil, drawing the thatched house, the beetle palm, and Grandma Min again, but this time he felt the drawing lacked something that could soar, carrying his feelings like the way she always quietly brought him good things. He remembered a time she made a kite in a story his mother told, and the idea sparked. He would make a paper kite to give to her to show her he had changed. He ran inside, rummaging through the house for paper, bamboo, and string. He found an old newspaper, some dry bamboo sticks, and a spool of colored thread she used for embroidery. He sat in the courtyard, starting to cut paper, bend bamboo, tie string, but it wasn't as easy as he thought. The paper tore, the bamboo broke, the string tangled, and the kite looked more like a mess than something that could fly. He got frustrated, threw the bamboo stick down, muttering, "Why is it so hard?" Lynn ran over, saw him sitting amid the pile of paper and bamboo, and laughed loudly. "Wow, what are you doing? Looking like you just fought a battle. Making a kite? Let me help." And glared at Lynn, but didn't refuse. Lynn sat down, took another bamboo stick, bent it into a frame, and glued the paper carefully. "You have to do it slowly," Lynn said, her voice patient. "A kite's not hard, but you need heart. Think about your grandma, and you'll make it." And stayed silent, watching Lynn work, and thought about Grandma Min, about her trembling smile, her thin hand patting his shoulder, the days she quietly cared for him. He picked up the paper, started again, slowly, carefully. Lynn helped him tie the string, drawing a few scribbled lines on the kite. A house, a beetle palm, and a boy standing beside Grandma. "Done!" Lynn cheered, holding the kite up high. It wasn't beautiful, wasn't balanced, but it was Anne's, his and Lynn's, carrying the feelings he wanted to send to Grandma. The next afternoon, Anne and Lynn took the kite to the field near the house. The breeze swept through the rice paddies, cool, making the kite flutter in his hands. And ran ahead, Lynn behind, shouting, "Pull hard and it'll fly." He tugged the string, ran fast, and the kite slowly rose, swaying in the wind, not very high but enough to make him laugh loudly. Lynn clapped, cheering, "See, you did it," and looked at the kite, saw the tiny house and beetle palm gliding in the sky, and felt his heart race. He thought about Grandma, about the moment he'd give her the kite, and wondered, would she smile? Would she understand? But then he remembered her eyes, eyes that always understood him, even when he said nothing, and he knew she would understand. That evening, and brought the kite inside, placing it on the wooden table where she usually sorted vegetables. Grandma Min came in, saw the kite, and was surprised. He stood beside her, shyly saying, I made it for you, so you'll be happy." She picked up the kite, looked at the scribbled drawings, then at him. Her eyes welled up, but she smiled, the brightest smile he'd ever seen. She pulled him into her arms, hugging tightly, though not strongly, but enough for him to feel warmth spread through him. He didn't cry, but his eyes stung, and he hugged her back, whispering, "Grandma, I don't want to go." She didn't reply, just stroked his hair, as if saying, "You'll always be mine." He knew she couldn't speak, but he heard her, heard with his heart, through the days gone by, through a love that needed no words. That night, and lay on the mat, watching the oil lamp's light dance on the ceiling. He thought about the kite, his mother's call, the days running out. He took a piece of paper from his backpack, wrote another line, his handwriting shaky. "Grandma, I want you to always be here." He folded the paper, tucked it into her notebook, and smiled. He didn't know what the day his mother came would be like, but he knew, even if he had to go, he'd carry Grandma with him, in his heart, in his drawings, in the simple moments of this summer. Monday morning, the 8th day in the countryside, and woke up with a heavy feeling in his heart. The rooster's crow still rang out sharply. Sunlight still streamed through the bamboo walls, casting golden streaks on the old brick floor. But today he didn't smile, hearing Grandma Min's bamboo broom sweeping the courtyard. His mother's call yesterday lingered in his mind. This weekend, I'll come pick you up, like a reminder that his time here with Grandma, with the thatched house, was slipping away faster than he wanted. He sat up groggily, stretched, and stepped out of the room, rubbing his eyes. Grandma Min was busy by the firewood stove, a thin wisp of smoke rising, carrying the faint smell of plain porridge and the fresh scent of lemongrass leaves she'd just picked from the garden corner. On the old wooden table, she had set out a bowl of porridge, a boiled egg, and a plate of boiled water spinach, green and fresh, next to a cup of cloudy green tea as always. There was also a small rice dumpling, sprinkled with fried shallots, probably brought from the morning market, and sat down, picked up the spoon, and ate slowly, but each bite of porridge carried a hint of sadness. He looked at her, saw her familiar trembling smile, and wondered, does she know I'm leaving soon? How sad will she be? Grandma Min looked up, catching his gaze. She smiled, gestured with her hand, pointing to the dumpling as if to say, try it, it's delicious, and nodded slightly, took a bite of the dumpling, the soft texture and fragrant shallots, but it didn't taste as good as usual. He wanted to say something about his mother, about the day he'd have to leave, but the words stuck in his throat like a small stone he couldn't swallow. When he finished eating, she slowly cleared the bowls, her hands trembling, but her movements careful, as always, and stood up, helping her carry the bowls to the well to wash, trying to do it slowly, as if to stretch out this moment. She patted his shoulder lightly, as if to say, that's good enough. He smiled, but it was a forced smile, and he turned away, not wanting her to see his eyes stinging. That morning, while I was sitting under the beetle palm, lost in thought, Lin ran up, calling from the gate in, come here, Grandma Min needs us for a big job. He looked up, curious, and saw Lin standing there, holding a coil of rope, her eyes sparkling as always. He trudged over, asking what job. Lin laughed loudly. The roof's leaking in a few spots, and Grandma asked Uncle Ba and some neighbors to fix it. We can help, right? Come on, it'll be fun. And looked inside, saw Grandma Min talking to Uncle Ba, a middle-aged man, broad-shouldered, wearing a tank top, with nods and hand gestures. She smiled, but noticed she looked more tired than usual, probably from being sick recently. He nodded, not refusing, though his heart was still heavy with the thought of leaving. All right, he said, following Lin into the courtyard, where Uncle Ba and a few neighbors had started working. Grandma Min's thatched roof was old, with broken tiles and loose straw, revealing gaps where rain could seep through. Uncle Ba set up a bamboo ladder, calling to an, up here, kid, hold some tiles for me, and climbed the ladder, his hands trembling, not from fear of heights, but because he'd never done this before. He handed tiles to Uncle Ba, watching him arrange them carefully, tying the straw with bamboo strips. Lin stood below, passing tiles and ropes, singing some folk song and didn't understand. He looked at Lin, at Uncle Ba, at the neighbors, Aunt Tu, Uncle Nam, laughing and helping Grandma as if it were their own task, and felt a warmth spread through him. In the city, he'd never seen people help each other like this. No calculations, no demands, just helping because they were part of each other. Grandma Min stood at the eaves, bringing out green tea for everyone, thanking them with her eyes, and looked at her, saw her smile brighter than the midday sun, and thought, she's lived her whole life like this, hasn't she? Quietly giving, quietly receiving, even without saying a word. The work lasted until the afternoon, when the sun cast long shadows. The roof was fixed, new tiles neatly arranged, straw tightly tied, looking much sturdier. Uncle Bob patted his shoulder, laughing loudly. Good job, kid. Come back next time. I'll need you again. And nodded, shyly, but inside he felt proud, as if he'd done something big. Come to the city to find you. As his mother pulled the suitcase to the bus and looked back, saw Grandma Min standing at the gate, holding the notebook, smiling. He waved, his eyes stinging, and whispered, I'll come back. The bus rolled away, taking him from the thatched house, the beetle palm, and Grandma Min, but he knew, those days here, days full of sunlight, breeze, and wordless love, would stay with him forever. The first morning back in the city, and woke up in his familiar small room, but everything seemed strange. The honking of cars outside roared loudly, replacing the sharp crow of the village rooster. The light from the window wasn't the radiant golden sun streaming through bamboo walls, but a pale, filtered glow through thick curtains. He lay in bed, eyes wide open, staring at the ceiling, hearing his mother clattering in the kitchen. No faint smell of plain porridge, no scent of lemongrass, just the smell of toasted bread and strong coffee. He sat up groggily, stretched, and felt a strange emptiness in his heart. He missed the sunlit courtyard, the towering beetle palm, and the sound of Grandma Min's bamboo broom sweeping each morning. He missed her trembling smile, her thin hand patting his shoulder, and her bright eyes that seemed to speak, though she never said a word. He missed Lynn, her clear laughter, and the paper kite swaying over the rice paddy. He had promised to return, but now, in the small room with white walls and a glowing computer screen, that promise seemed farther away than he thought. He stepped out of the room, saw his mother setting a plate of toast and a glass of milk on the table. She smiled, but her eyes held a trace of worry. "And you okay? Happy to be home." He nodded, sat down, picked up the toast, but didn't eat right away. He looked at his mother, wanting to tell her about the days in the countryside, about the bundle of greens, the drawing, the kite, Grandpa's letter, but the words stuck in his throat like a small stone he couldn't swallow. "I'm fine," he said, his voice soft. His mother nodded, not asking more, but he noticed she carried her own sadness, something he hadn't paid attention to before. He thought about Grandma Min, about the moment his mother hugged her at the gate, and wondered, does Mom miss the countryside? Does she miss Grandma like I do? The first day in the city passed slowly, and went to school, met his friends, heard them talk about new games, movies they'd watched, but he wasn't excited like before. He sat in class, looking out the window, seeing tall buildings and a gray sky, imagining the lush green rice paddies, the streams sparkling under the sun. He took a piece of paper, scribbled a thatched house, a beetle palm, and a small figure in a brown shirt, Grandma Min. He wasn't good at drawing, but each line seemed to bring him back to those days in the countryside, where he learned to love, to cherish the simple things. In the afternoon, back home, and opened his backpack, took out an old notebook, not the one he left for Grandma, but a new one he bought at a stationery shop near school. He sat at his desk, under the bright white desk lamp, and started drawing. He drew the sunlit courtyard, the red dirt path, Lynn running with a banana leaf ball. He drew Grandma Min sweeping the courtyard, picking vegetables, holding the paper kite he made. He wrote under each drawing, his handwriting scribbled, "Grandma, I miss you. I'm trying to be good." He drew until late, when his mother knocked, saying, "Go to sleep, it's late." He nodded, folded the notebook, but didn't sleep right away. He took a sheet of paper, wrote a letter to Grandma Min, though he knew she couldn't read, couldn't reply. He wrote, "Grandma, I'm back in the city. It's noisy here, no rice paddies, no stream, no you. I miss you. Miss the courtyard, miss the porridge you cooked. I'm learning to draw you beautifully. I promise to be good, to come back. Stay healthy, don't get sick anymore. I love you so much." And he folded the letter, put it in an envelope, and asked his mother to send it to the countryside. She looked at the envelope, smiled, saying, "Grandma will be so happy, and you've changed a lot." He didn't reply, just lowered his head, but his heart felt strangely warm, as if the letter had brought him back to the thatched house, even if just for a moment. The days after, I tried to settle back into city life, but he wasn't the same and as before. He didn't snap when his mother nagged, didn't bury himself in the computer all day. He helped her wash dishes, sweep the floor, and each time he did, he remembered how Grandma Min carefully cleared bowls, swept the courtyard evenly. He told his friends about the countryside, about Grandma, about Lynn, though they didn't fully understand. One friend laughed. "What's fun about the countryside? No Wi-Fi, no games, boring as heck." And just smiled, didn't explain, because he knew those days in the countryside weren't just fun, they were living, loving, understanding. One afternoon, when his mother was still at work, and rummaged through her old bookshelf, looking for a storybook to read. In the corner, he saw a small, worn box, just like Grandma Min's wooden box. He hesitated, knowing he shouldn't open it, but curiosity won. He lifted the lid, saw a stack of yellowed letters, some black and white photos, and a handkerchief embroidered with flowers, like the one he lost. He picked up a letter, the handwriting familiar, like the one in Grandpa's letter. He opened it, his heart racing, as if touching a secret he wasn't meant to know. The letter was short, written in blue ink, the handwriting neat but slightly shaky. "Dear Lon, I'm not good at writing, can't speak, but I want you to know I love you so much. You're grown, going to the city, living the life you want. I won't hold you back. But the countryside is still here. I'm still here. Whenever you're tired, come back." I can't speak, but I hear you, understand you. Keep this handkerchief. It was your grandmother's, so you'll remember home. Your mother, Min. And folded the letter, his eyes stinging. He looked at the photo in the box, his mother young, standing beside Grandma Min, smiling brightly. He realized his mother, little Lon, had also left the countryside, like him now, carrying memories, lessons from Grandma. He thought about his mother, about her silences, about the sad look when she spoke of Grandma, and understood. She sent him to the countryside not to punish him, but to let him find what she once had, Grandma's love, the love of home. He carefully put the letter and photo back, closed the box, but his heart was in turmoil. He wanted to ask his mother about the letter, about Grandma, about the year she was away from home, but he knew she'd tell him when she was ready. He just took his drawing notebook, added a picture, his mother and Grandma Min, standing under the beetle palm, hand in hand. He wrote below, "Mom, I understand now." A week later, and received a letter from Lynn, her handwriting scribbled on notebook paper. "And you okay? Grandma Min's doing great. Yesterday she made rice dumplings for me. Come back here, I'll take you fishing. Grandma says you're good. She misses you. Right back." And smiled, reading the letter over and over, imagining Lynn running on the red dirt path, Grandma Min sweeping the courtyard in the morning sun. He took paper, wrote back, "Lynn, I'm fine. I'm happy Grandma's okay. I miss the countryside. Miss you, miss her. I'm drawing a lot. I'll show you next time. Thanks for helping me with the kite. You're awesome. Keep the handkerchief Grandma gave me safe. Don't lose it. See you soon." He sent the letter and kept drawing. He drew the countryside, the stream, the kite flying over the rice paddies. He drew Grandma Min, not just the grandma of now, but the young grandma in his imagination, standing beside Grandpa, smiling brightly like in the letter. He didn't know if he'd become an artist or just a boy who liked to draw, but he knew each drawing was a promise to Grandma, to Lynn, to himself. One evening, as he was drawing, his mother came in, holding an envelope. "And a letter from the countryside," she said, smiling. He opened it, not from Lynn, but a small note, her handwriting scribbled, probably written for Grandma. "And Grandma Min says you're very good. She keeps your notebook. She's happy. Study hard. She's waiting for you." He read it, his eyes stinging, and looked at his mother. She stroked his hair, saying softly, "Grandma loves you like she loves me. Don't forget her, okay?" He nodded, hugged his mother, and for the first time felt she wasn't just his mother, but a part of Grandma, a part of the countryside. He knew, even in the city, even far away, Grandma Min was here, in his drawings, in his letters, in his heart. One summer morning when he was 15, he stepped off the bus, setting foot on the red dirt path leading to the village. Here was running out, and he wanted to do everything to make her happy. In the afternoon, Lynn arrived, no longer the girl with a high ponytail and worn t-shirt, but a 15-year-old, taller, still with her clear smile. "And you're really back." Lynn cheered, hugging him tightly. "I thought you forgot the village, city boy." He laughed, shook his head. "Forget? No way. You still catching fish, making kites." Lynn winked. "Of course. But now I study too, preparing for exams." "You? Still drawing?" And nodded, opened his backpack, took out a new drawing notebook, thicker than the old one, filled with pictures of the countryside. The thatched house, the beetle palm, Grandma Min, the stream, the rice paddies. Lynn flipped through, amazed. "You draw so much better now. Grandma Min must be so proud." And looked at Grandma Min, saw her holding the old notebook, the one he left years ago, and smiling. She opened it, pointed to the drawing of the boy and her under the beetle palm, as if saying, "I kept it." He lowered his head, his eyes stinging, and thought, "She kept not just the drawing, but all my love that whole summer." One morning, as I was sweeping the courtyard, Lynn ran up, eyes sparkling, "And I have a great idea. You draw so well. Why not hold an art show in the village? Let everyone see, tell stories about Grandma Min, about our home. I'll help organize." And hesitated, unsure if he was good enough, but when he looked at Grandma Min, saw her eyes light up as if agreeing, he nodded, "Let's try." They started preparing. Lynn ran around the village, inviting Uncle Ba, Aunt Tu, Uncle Nam, and even the old lady selling vegetables at the market, and sat under the beetle palm, picking his best drawings, not just from the new notebook, but ones he drew in the city, sent to Lin through letters. He wrote captions for each. Grandma Min sweeping the courtyard every morning, the rice paddies in summer, the kite Lin and I made. He wanted to tell not just his story, but hers, the village's, the days that changed him. The art show was held at the village temple courtyard, under the old banyan tree. Lin set up a large cloth as a screen, borrowing a projector from a school, and stood before the crowd. Not large, just a few dozen people, but he was nervous, clutching his notebook tightly. Lin patted his shoulder, whispering, "You can do it. Tell it like you're telling Grandma." He took a deep breath, started, "This is my home, my grandma. I didn't like being here at first, but she taught me how to love, how to live." He told about that summer when he was 10, about the bundle of greens, the drawing, the kite, the rain, Grandpa's letter. He told about Grandma Min, how she quietly helped the village, about her wordless love. The villagers listened, some nodding, some wiping their eyes. The old vegetable seller whispered, "Your grandma's so proud." And he looked at Grandma Min, saw her sitting in the corner, holding the old notebook, smiling, and felt his heart race, not from fear, but from happiness. That night, after the show, and sat with Grandma under the eaves, looking at the moon hanging over the beetle palm. He took the new notebook, gave it to her. "Grandma, I'm leaving this for you. This time I drew better." She opened it, flipped through, her hands trembling. She said nothing, just pulled him in her arms, hugging tightly, though not strongly, but enough for him to feel warmth spread through him. He whispered, "Grandma, I'll come back again. I promise." She stroked his hair, her eyes bright, as if replying, "I believe you." He knew she couldn't speak, but he heard her, heard with his heart, through the years gone by, through a love that never faded. The last day in the countryside, and stood at the gate, looking at the thatched house, the beetle palm, and Grandma Min. Lin stood beside him, saying, "You study hard, come back and be a famous artist, okay? I'm waiting." He laughed, nodded, and hugged Lin, hugged Grandma again. As the bus rolled away, taking him from the village, he looked back, saw Grandma standing there, holding the notebook, smiling. He waved, his eyes stinging, and whispered, "I'll come back, Grandma." One cold winter morning, and, now 25, stood before the familiar village gate, pulling a suitcase, a heavy backpack on his shoulders. The red dirt path was now fully paved, flanked not by lush rice paddies, but new houses, small cafes, and blinking billboards. The breeze blew, carrying the scent of dry grass and a hint of exhaust, no longer as pure as in his memories. He took a deep breath, hearing sparrows chirping somewhere on bamboo branches, and felt a faint sadness. Not because the village had changed, but because he knew, this time, Grandma Min wasn't at the gate waiting. He walked the path to her house, now Uncle Ba's, who took care of it after she passed 2 years ago. He got the news from Lin in a short letter, her handwriting still scribbled, in "Grandma Min's gone. She went peacefully, but she missed you. Come back when you can." He couldn't return right away, because of work, art projects in the city, but the news was like a knife, haunting him for 2 years. Now he was back, not to see her, but to find her in what remained, in the thatched house, the old beetle palm, the memories he carried for 15 years. Grandma Min's house still stood, its tiled roof mossy, the beetle palm towering, but the courtyard no longer sunlit as before. Uncle Ba came out to greet him, his weathered face now with more wrinkles, smiling sadly. "And you're back? Your grandma would be so happy," and nodded, stepped inside, saw everything familiar, the old wooden table, the cold firewood stove, the wicker chair where she used to sit. On the table, he saw the old drawing notebook, the one he left at 10, placed neatly, as if she'd kept it until the end. He picked up the notebook, flipped through, saw the scribbled drawings, the thatched house, the beetle palm, Grandma Min, the boy in her hand in hand. Next to it was the second notebook, the one he left at 15, with better, more detailed drawings. His eyes stung, but he didn't cry, just whispered, "Grandma, I came back too late." In the afternoon, Lynn arrived, now a 25-year-old woman, tall and slender, hair neatly tied, wearing a simple dye. She taught at the village school, no longer running around, but her eyes were still bright, still clear as ever. "And," Lynn called, hugging him tightly. "You're so grown but still look like you did, city boy." He laughed, hugged her back, feeling a bit of warmth in the winter cold. "You okay?" he asked, looking at Lynn. "When Grandma passed, were you sad?" Lynn nodded, her eyes briefly red. "Sad, yeah. But she went gently, no pain. Before she passed, she gave me the notebook, told me to keep it for you. She said with her eyes that you'd do something big," and stayed silent, looked at the notebook in his hand and thought, she believed in me, even when I wasn't here when she needed me. They sat under the beetle palm, catching up on the years. Lynn told him about the village. New houses, the rebuilt school, how people still remembered Grandma Min through old stories. And told her about the city, art school, small exhibitions, how he drew Grandma in every painting, though no one knew. Lynn listened, then said, "And remember the art show at the temple? Why not do it again bigger in the city? Let people know about Grandma, about our home." And hesitated, but the idea sparked in his mind like a flame. He looked at Lynn, nodded, "Okay, but you have to help me." Lynn laughed loudly. "No question. I'm a teacher. Organizing's my thing." They started planning and returned to the city, bringing the 2 old notebooks and a suitcase full of drawings. Ones he made over 15 years, from a 10-year-old scribbles to a 25-year-old artist's sharp works. Lynn stayed in the countryside collecting photos, keepsakes, and stories from the villagers. Uncle Ba, Aunt Tu, the vegetable seller, to send to him. He worked day and night, selecting drawings, writing captions, preparing for the biggest exhibition of his life, My Grandma in My Homeland. The exhibition was held in a small gallery in the city center, where bright white lights shone on the drawings hung on the walls. And stood in the middle, wearing a simple white shirt, clutching the old notebook, watching people stream in, friends from art school, colleagues, strangers curious about his story. On the walls were his drawings, the thatched house in morning light, the towering beetle palm, Grandma Min sweeping the courtyard, the paper kite over the rice paddies, the sparkling stream, and the boy in her hand in hand. Each drawing had a caption, telling about that summer, about Grandma, about the wordless love that changed him. His mother came, stood beside him, eyes red, looking at the drawings. "And I didn't know you kept Grandma in your heart so long," she said softly.